2007, we also went into the Women Making Airwaves for Peace that roughly looked at how community radio could be used in advocating for peace and women's participation in peace building. That was roughly when we thought of systematizing all of this within the ISIS activist school that is grounded in feminist development communications. That means for us being grounded in new alternative frames of ways of looking at various issues, whether it be the issue of climate justice, gender-based violence, women in peace building, or other issues. It's grounded in the realities of women in the global south. Second, it puts the use of development communication tools within the hands of women so that they can not only be recipients of knowledge but be producers as well. So we've experienced women and men producing radio plugs, sometimes even video or even theater after an activist school, whether it's for 3 days, 5 days, or right now that we're having 3 weeks. So why the need to focus on gender-based violence? Roughly, the women's movement, I think, all over the world has been engaged in trying to resolve or trying to respond to the issue of violence against women, roughly since the 1980s. But I think what's more important nowadays is to identify how we've also shifted in not just in terminologies of shifting what we used to call violence against women to now gender-based violence, but not just a shift of terminologies, but more a shift of how we're viewing it. Basically, what for us is gender-based violence is one, the inclusion of sexual orientation and gender identity as sometimes also sources of new forms of violence that LGBTs also experience. Second, it's also recognizing the gendered experience also of violence, basically recognizing power relations as something that's also very crucial in the experience. It was very important for us, I think, to in how we contribute to the 16 days of activism with this activist school that we have on re-examining gender-based violence, is to really bring these women. We have roughly about 24 women coming from roughly 11 countries in Asia Pacific and even Eastern Europe, who have really shared the context of how gender-based violence is experienced within their own countries, and we have also been fortunate to also have practitioners from various fields to also take them into a reflection, or what we call self-reflexivity, of what is effective now in how they are addressing the issue of gender-based violence, to how it can be continually effective, not only in terms of organizational practice, but also a sharpened advocacy. Because I think this will be something that we will continue to address, because it's something that's not just experienced within intimate partner violence, but sometimes within families, within communities, and even societies at large. So we have a long way to go.
1990s and at present time, when people are now thinking of, do we now really move to gender-based violence, or how do we do that shift in our thinking, in our movement? No. Because increasingly the movement came to include men, and in the work of including men, no, to stop violence against women, a more neutral word was called for. A word that did not imply that men were to blame.
These issues, these are not just issues anymore or concerns. So what we're talking here now, that these are rights, there are rights associated that are being violated in this context. And you can demand this against the state. So that's one important distinction of why it's important to frame it as human rights. Okay, is that clear? Okay. And because it's demandable against the state, you can legally enforce it, meaning you can go through the village court, or as in the case of Pakistan, since you don't have a law specifically on honor killings or domestic violence, you can probably use the civil code.
When you see an organization as a living system, the things that you look at in an organization would be less focused on the system and more focused on its internal aspects, right? So you look at the environment of the organization, the societal and the cultural context within which the organization was created and exists. That would determine some aspect of the organization. So the organization is not this cold form that exists with no relevance to the outside.
So what we need to be careful, number one, is try not to repeat or reinforce the stereotype that already exists in our culture and society. Like, oh, we see this kind of person, oh, they're the gay, oh, they're the lesbian. Because they're just like us. There's no specific different behavior or type of behave in their life. So we should not reinforce those possible stereotyping. And second, I think we need also be careful of using the image that really localized, reflect our culture, customized to our culture and our.
All day long. Here, power in Nepal. And in China. And in Sri Lanka. And what other countries are here? Indonesia. Vietnam. Okay. And then Cambodia. Any other countries? A person has Serbia, can you shout it out? Okay. And a person here in Filipino.
Camera rolling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action.
Can you help me with this? Can you?
Sorry, I cannot.
You see,
Partner, photographer, like camera. My favorite part of the activist school was the country sharing. You know, it's a very enriching experience, having heard of forms of gender-based violence as experienced by women in other countries. So this is my first time being able to to learn more deeply about honor killings, and there's that Dory. You know, there's so many different account of forms of gender-based violence that happened in other parts of the.
It's a comfortable place, and the environment here is comfortable, and the facilitators here, they really work with zeal and zest, and they really indulge us with their knowledge, and whatever they know in us, they really try to induce, and I really find them good. And my learning and my skills on gender-based violence, it really broaden. The more I learn, the less I think that I'm learning. And practically, but I believe that it will enhance my work the time when I go back to my place. I will take all these advocacy tools there, and I will implement them, because it really helps me, or it really enables me to put my things in sequence.
First of all, that was really a good opportunity, attending such a school and the 21 days training. And for me, the organization development parts, that was really useful and really related to my job.